Good morning, class. Okay,
Good
let's
morning,
begin
ma'am.
it then. Good morning. Alex, Archana,
Present, ma'am.
Asish,
Yes, ma'am.
Dipesh,
Yes, ma'am.
Even, Even, are you there? Jeju,
Yes, ma'am.
Marina,
Yes, ma'am.
Ninju,
Yes, ma'am.
Nishan, Ojasvi, Ojasvi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Prakriti, okay. Prakriti, Prashamsha,
Yes, ma'am.
Praveen,
Yes, ma'am.
Raman,
Yes, ma'am.
Ratna,
Present, ma'am.
Rebison,
Present, ma'am.
Ritesh,
Present, ma'am.
Vivas,
Yes, ma'am.
Ronim, Sacham, Salina,
Present, ma'am.
Sarishma,
Yes, ma'am.
Shekhar, Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Karup,
Yes, ma'am.
Yunesh. All right. Did anybody miss out on the attendance?
Ma'am, even.
Fine. Anybody else?
Shekhar is also present.
Shekhar is
I'm
also
also
present.
present, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Shekhar and Alex, right? Anybody else? Okay. So today let's move on. We'll be going through business communication types and networks today, right? So let me share this first. Okay. Now, business communication types and networks. So, what are the different types of business communication and what different networks do business communication use? Right. So, we'll be going through that in today's class. So, here you can see this table. On top, you can see types of business communication. It's divided into 3 types: on basis of media uses, on the basis of direction, and on the basis of relationship or network. So there was a slight problem here, I guess, but it's visible, right? So basis of media uses, direction, and network or relationship, right? So under basis of media uses, you can see verbal and non-verbal communication. Under basis of direction, there are vertical communication, horizontal communication, and diagonal communication. So similarly, under vertical, there is upward communication and downward communication, right? And on the basis of relationship or network, there is formal communication and informal communication. So this is the basic chart of types of business communication. Now we'll be describing each one based on media, based on direction, and based on network, right? So let's move on. Now here, first, based on media is verbal and non-verbal communication. And I think most of us are aware about what verbal communication is and what non-verbal communication is. Because like when verbally communicating, we need speech, we need words, we need to use our vocal cord to communicate with anybody, right? For a two-way communication, we need verbal communication, oral kind of communication. So similarly, in non-verbal communication, there is no words used, there is no speech, there is no need of vocal cord exactly. But there are other things which we need to consider in non-verbal communication, such as facial expressions. Your facial expressions, if you're smiling, the other person can know that you are in a happy mood. Or if you're not smiling and if you're frowning, the other person will be able to know that you are communicating and you're trying to tell that you're not happy and you're sad, right? So facial expressions matter. Eye and body movements, how you move, what are the signs your eyes are trying to tell or make. There's body language, loudness or tone of voice. So what tone are you using? Are you using a sarcastical tone? Or are you using a humorous tone? So the way you speak also falls under non-verbal communication sometimes, right? And there's personal space. When you want to maintain a distance with somebody, you just try to go far. You try to ignore that person. That also tries to communicate to the other person, tries to tell the other person that you want a personal space, you want to maintain distance or something related, right? There is appearance, how you dress up. If you're dressed up formally, you are trying to communicate or tell other people that you want a very proper meeting. Or if you're dressed very shabbily and casually, maybe people might just assume that you're a very casual person and anything might be just okay with you, right? So it's similar with gestures and it's similar with silence. When you maintain silence, people can understand so many things through silence. Sometimes they might understand that you're not happy. Sometimes silence would mean that you're trying to give respect to somebody, you're trying to give space to somebody, right? So all these fall under non-verbal communication. So what we need to remember here is verbal communication is done through oral speech and use of words, but in non-verbal communication, we do not use oral speech or words. Instead, we use gestures and facial expressions and different kinds of signs, right? Okay, so this was regarding media uses. Now let's go on to direction. Under direction, we had vertical, horizontal, and diagonal, right? Okay, now this is some, all right, let's just skip this for now. Okay, now here. Now in this chart, you can see the board of directors. This is the chart of board of directors and staff of Everest Bank. Okay, so what we can see here is it shows the organizational structure of the bank. It shows the hierarchy of the bank. So how we communicate, okay, in a business, this Everest Bank is a business, right? So how we communicate in this organization, it shows the direction. Are we communicating vertically, horizontally, diagonally? So these things matter. Now there in this chart, you can see the blue arrows, right? The blue arrows are pointing upwards and downwards. So the blue arrows are basically trying to signify the vertical direction of communication. Now, for example, now you can see on the top, there is board of directors and the arrow is showing to chief executive officer, right? So the board of directors, if the board of directors, they want to give some information to the chief executive officer, okay, it means downward communication. Under vertical, we had upward and downward, right? So the board of directors communicating the CEO, chief executive officer. Alex, can you please mute yourself for a while? Okay. So the board of directors giving information to CEO is downwards. Now, if the CEO is giving information to the board of directors, that becomes upward direction of communication in a business organization. Okay. So similarly, on the very left, you can see audit committee of board, ACB, giving information to internal audit or inspection. So audit committee giving information to internal audit is downward. And similarly, if internal audit gives information to audit committee of board, that is upward, right? So in the similar manner for vertical, let's go to the bottom right. There is risk management and operation. There's a blue arrow there, right? So risk management giving information to operation below is, it goes downwards. Operation giving information to risk management, it becomes upward again. Okay, so this is based on hierarchy. All right, now let's go to the horizontal red lines, red arrows. On the left, there's a red arrow, you can see. There is NPA management, branchless banking. So that is side by side, right? So it means horizontal communication because the NPA management and branchless banking, they are on the same level, same kind of post, similar posting, okay? They don't have a different hierarchy in their posting. So if they have a same kind of post and they are communicating from different departments, or maybe it's in the same department too, it is known as horizontal direction of communication. So NPA management to branchless banking is horizontal. Okay. All right. Similarly, somewhere in the right, you can see independent function giving information to planning and development. So they also lie in the same hierarchy, same posting, right? They do not differ in hierarchy. So they are also doing a horizontal communication. Similarly, on the bottom, you can see accounts department to credit department, account staff to credit staff, let's say. So when an account staff gives information to credit staff, it again becomes horizontal direction of communication. And similarly, like credit staff giving information to account staff, it's also horizontal, right? Now look at the yellow lines. The yellow lines, they signify diagonal direction of communication. So diagonal means that they differ in hierarchy and then they do not belong to the same, let's say, department. Okay. Upwards and downwards, like they belong to the same department. In horizontal too, they belong to the similar kind of post. But here in diagonal, Neither do they belong to the same department, nor do they belong to the same hierarchy. Okay. So there on top, you can see Human Resource Management Committee. Now, if Human Resource Management Committee gives information or gives any kind of instructions, any data or any kind of communication to remittance staff there, down there, that is diagonal, because remittance staff does not directly come under the Department of Human Resource, and the remittance staff and the Human Resource Management Committee, they are not in the same hierarchy or same posting. So that is why it is considered as diagonal communication. The next one you can see there is legal staff and then there is general manager, right? So this is also diagonal because they differ in posting and they differ in departments and hierarchy, right? Again, the general manager giving information to credit risk management committee. So the Credit Risk Management Committee is from a different department and then is below in ranking or below in hierarchy than the general manager. So that again becomes diagonal direction of business communication, right? Now let's take a few more examples, okay? Now if, for example, if the CEO has to give information to the marketing staff. Can you see on the very right bottom, marketing staff, CEO giving information or instruction to marketing staff? What would that be? Vertical, horizontal, or diagonal? What would that be?
Diagonal.
Diagonal, right? Because they do not belong to the same department or not even the same hierarchy. Now, what about the audit committee of board on the top right, giving information to human resource management committee? What would that be?
Ma'am, के भन्नुभयो?
Audit committee on the top right, top left, okay, audit committee of board giving information or communicating with human resource management committee on the top again,
Horizontal.
horizontal, right? So I think you're clear on what horizontal communication, diagonal communication, or vertical communication means. And then I've tried here to distinguish with different colors of arrows, like the blue for vertical, upward and downward, the red for horizontal, and the yellow for diagonals. Right? So I believe you're clear on this, clear on direction of business communication, right? So now just tell me, let's take an example of our college, ACE. Now, if the principal wants to give some announcement, wants to make an announcement for the students, what kind of communication would it be?
Principal.
Did you understand my question?
Diagonal.
The principal giving announcement. Yes, principal announcing to students.
Diagonal.
Diagonal, is
हजुर.
it?
हजुर.
Diagonal, or I think we can say downward too, because the principal is on the very top and the student would come at the very.
Ma'am, it depends. If the principal does not in that segment of teaching, faculty member teaching faculty may होइन भने त फेरि डायगोनलमा पर्न जान्छ हैन र Knock, knock.
Okay, I'm really sorry for internet issues. Okay, so we were talking about the direction of business communication. Now I believe you have understood this, and you also replied on the principal to students, that is either diagonal or downwards, right? Okay. Thank you. All right, so now let's move ahead. Okay, let's go to networks now. Networks of business communications. Now, networks are divided into two types, formal and informal. Okay, formal networks through formal structure and informal networks through personal communication. Fine. So in a formal network, there are hierarchies. It goes step by step. And in an informal network, hierarchy is not needed. Any steps or any rules and regulations are not followed. It's not necessary to follow there in informal. Okay. So let me give you an example here. Now you can see this chart. On the bottom, you can see the black solid lines. They are showing formal network, while the pink lines, coral dashed lines, okay, they are showing informal network. So the black lines now, the formal network, they are going step by step. If the department manager has to announce or give any information to the entire staff, he will not go directly to the staff and give information. He will give the information to the supervisors, then the supervisors will be giving the information to the staff. The department manager cannot just go and give the information to anybody he wants. He has to go through steps. He has to follow a particular hierarchy. And similarly, in the informal thing, in informal networking, if the department formally as a personal communication, he wants to communicate informally with any staff, he can just go and communicate. He doesn't have to follow the hierarchy. He doesn't have to go through and then to the staff. So in informal, anybody can communicate with anybody at any time, but in formal networking, they have to follow a particular hierarchy, right? And similarly, in formal networking too, if the staff has to give any information to the department manager, he has to first tell the supervisor. Then the supervisor will send the information to the department manager. So they have to follow steps, right? Now, here for formal network now. Now, formal network might be upward, downward, lateral, diagonal within the organization, right? Because like we've already seen in directions, how the direction of communication works. So in formal networking, when you are inside an organization, when you are inside working in the company, you have to follow these kinds of hierarchy, how you will communicate with a certain person in the company, right? So how do you communicate formally? From what mediums? So the points are there. Forms of reports, memos, emails. So you cannot just write a small letter, or you cannot write something in a piece of paper. You cannot through Instagram or Messenger, informal network. You have to use certain mediums which are formal, just like reports, memos, emails, they are there, right? And how does the connection happen? You can't just go and say hi and give a hug and give the information. You have to give information through orders, advisories, instructions, or announcement. And there are also organization newsletters, bulletin boards, they are used, invoices, receipts, letters to consultants and then government bodies, and it goes on. But the major things are these. Informal or you cannot be casual. Even if you are giving an information to your colleague and your colleague is a best friend, you cannot just go and give a hug and pat on the back and just tell the information. You have to use these forms to communicate. like instructions, announcements, and emails, reports. So it's necessary in formal networking in any organization that you use these things, right? And here in the informal network, anybody can communicate with anybody at any time, at any point of time, or in any place, right? So in informal network, there are no channels or no particular mediums. You don't have to use email to give any information or talk to somebody. You can use anything. So in informal, it's not mandatory that you use a certain medium. You can use emails, of course, but you can just go and pat your friend on the back, or you can just use Facebook or Messenger. So you can use anything, right? Or if you want to write a letter or write some note in a piece of paper, that is also okay in informal network. But what we need to remember is informal network is changing every single time. Today, a person might be your best friend, but tomorrow you might get angry with that person and you might not want to talk. Now, if you're in the formal networking and you didn't want to talk to that person, you can't just help it. You have to give the information through a formal network. But informally, if you don't want to talk, it's okay. You cannot talk. But if you want to talk, you can talk at any time. And then like in informal network, anybody can talk to anyone, right? Maybe the CEO can talk to the peon. They might be best friends too. So anything can happen. Maybe like there is the cleaner. The cleaner is the best friend of the board of directors. So informal network can be anybody related and communicating with anybody. And in the last point you can see, informal network is like a grapevine. So grapevine is like a creeper. This plant, it creeps and crawls and then it just gets bigger and longer and we don't know where it goes. It is intertwined. So informal network is also like grapevine. It is intertwined. There are gossips, there are rumors, people are backbiting or people are appreciating. Any kind of talk is okay in informal. Just like a CEO and a marketing officer, the two people talking in an elevator, it's also informal network. But a CEO and marketing officer talking in a conference hall, that is formal networking again, right? So did you get these two differences, formal and informal?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, clear, right? Now I would want to go back here again on verbal and non-verbal communication now. Now, after we've finished business communication types regarding direction and network, and we had already discussed verbal and non-verbal too. Now let's go inside verbal, okay? What are the types of verbal communication? So now verbal communication, we already know verbal might be written or oral, right? But there are four types of verbal communication in any business communication or networking. So that's intrapersonal, interpersonal, small group communication, and public communication. So in intrapersonal communication, it's very private and it's like you're talking to yourself. Sometimes we do that, right? We write something or we're working on something and we ask ourselves, is this correct or should I do the other thing? So, or like it's not necessary to speak out. We can just think also. That is intrapersonal communication, right? And that's also necessary in business communication. We need to make decisions. We need to think before we act, right? So in second, we have interpersonal communication. Interpersonal is in a conversation between two people, any kind of conversation. It may be formal communication, informal communication, or it might be like based on direction, horizontal or diagonal or any kind, but there needs to be two people who are communicating. So it is interpersonal. And then in number three, we have small group communication. In a business communication, usually we have small groups in meetings, right, in conferences. And the other thing, number four, is public communication. When a business company, a business house is giving information to the public, to its audience, that is public communication. Sometimes it may be known as press release, that is also public communication. And then advertisements, can also be known as public communication, because the business company is trying to give information to everybody, right? So that is why it's public communication. Okay, so these are the 4 types of verbal communication. And then I believe you have already understood non-verbal communication, right? So any questions until here? Types of business communication regarding media uses, direction, and networking. So let me go back here again. Now here, look at this again. Have you understood regarding everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any confusion? Okay, I take
Not
that as
really.
a no. Okay, now let's move on to the second part of our discussion. 3 categories of business communication now. What are the categories? So there's internal operational, external operational, and personal communication. Okay, the previous one was types. Okay, now is categories. So let's move to internal operational communication first. So internal operation is the communication which happens inside of a business company, which happens inside of an organization. See, just like now here in the first point you can see orders and instructions by senior officer to employees, or like information from employee to senior officer. That is internal operation, the communication which happens inside the organization. There is nobody who is not related to the organization. Let's say like who is not the staff of the organization. Nobody is there like that. If the senior officer or the manager is communicating with the peon, that is also internal, because the peon is also a member of the organization, right? So whoever is inside the organization and they are communicating with each other, that is known as internal operation. So under internal operation, we have discussion among employees. If one employee is talking to another employee, it may be formal, it may be informal, or it may be like upward, downward, diagonal, anything, but it must happen inside the organization. Okay, so that is internal operation. And how do they communicate then? From which mediums? So employees usually, okay, usually, not all the time, employees usually respond with reports. And on the right side in the blue box, blue pentagon, you can see along with reports there are emails, oral instructions, messaging, meetings, discussions, written reports. So there are various mediums, not only these, there might be others too. So usually they communicate through these things while in the organization. If they go outside the organization and then if they're in a party, it is not regarded as internal operation. When they are in the company, they are in working hours and they are communicating, that is internal operation, right? And in the blue pentagon you can see they are how they communicate, okay, inside. So team meetings can also be considered internal operation, right? Team meeting, because all the team members belong or they are the staff of the company or the organization, so it can be considered as internal operation. Okay, now the next one here is external operation communication. So external means some people, those individuals who are not a staff or not an employee of the organization, who are from outside the organization, just like customers. The major example might be customers and clients. They are related to the organization, but they are not a part of the organization. They are not an employee or staff of the organization. They are from outside, right? So that is why they are external operational communication. Or sometimes like when one company has a meeting with another company, that is also external operation. See, when you have a discussion or you have a meeting with clients, customers, vendors, these all are external. And there are so many points here. See, governmental bodies, they are external because you have to communicate with them, right? But they are not a part, they're not exactly a staff or employee in your organization. And then there's general public. You have to communicate or give information, give advertisements to the public, but they're not your employee. They are not inside of your organization. They are customers, suppliers, there might be other companies, contractors, legal consultants, there might be media, shareholders. So you give information, you give advertisements or data or many things to all these things, all these bodies, but they are not inside. They are outside of your organization, so it becomes external operational communication here. All right. And there below now, you can see, think the business around you and find other external agency, person, or group the business should communicate. So apart from the bodies or the individuals that are mentioned in points here on this slide, can you think of any other individual relating to external operational communication? Who might it be? External.
Email, newsletters, posters.
Okay, those are different things, Archana. So what we are talking about here are individuals. See? So
So
who are
can it be
these?
marketers?
Yes, of course, marketers, because they're not employees, but
Mm-hmm.
they just come and market their products to you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So who else? Marketers are one, and then who else? Maybe different banks.
Audit firm in public
Yes,
limited
probably.
company, procurement department, vendor,
Yes, vendors.
even customer itself.
Yes, customer itself, right? So there are so many others, so many other individuals in external operations. These are just a few examples, all right? So basically, I guess you got the idea of internal operation and external operation. In internal operation, people are inside your organization. They are an employee. But in external operation, they are connected, but they are not an employee in your organization. All right? So this is the difference here. Any question? Any questions here? Okay, that's great. Let's move on to the third one, that is personal communication. Okay, now I'll give you these examples later on. Now here, personal communication. So personal communication, it's not necessary to be a part of internal operation or external operation. Personal communication is just exchange of ideas, feelings, emotions, right? From one person to the other. And it's not necessary to connect it with business communication. Like if you meet your friend on the road and you communicate, that is personal communication. Or if you're talking to your parents at home, that is personal communication. See, if like you send me a chat message and then we are talking on Messenger, that is personal communication. So it does not matter who communicates with whom and how in personal communication. Okay. And then it's not necessarily a part of official business. So in the second, your third point, you can see how personal communication is conducted. Of course, it's conducted orally too, but there are other parts too. There might be personal notes, wishes, messages, or you might say if someone's it's the birthday of some person, you might just go and say happy birthday to your colleague. So that happy birthday message is personal communication, even though you are inside the organization. So what you are communicating matters, okay? Or if you just tell your colleague, or if you tell the manager, oh, happy anniversary, I saw your post on Facebook, so happy anniversary, that is also personal communication. Or if somebody had passed away, somebody's like relative had passed away, and you say like heartfelt condolence, that is also personal communication. See, so personal communication is directly not related to official business. Okay, and it can be any message. And because it can be any message, there are so many things in personal communication. There might be happiness, there might be ego and anger, there might be joy. So people can have any kind of emotion and feeling in personal communication. It's not necessary that they are very formal in personal communication. They can have any kind of feeling. Or it might like take place at any, it's not necessary to take place in only in the office or organization. If you meet at a party and you're communicating, that is personal communication. If you meet at a gathering, or if you start fighting on the road, that is also personal communication. So in personal communication also, they might sometimes talk about official things, official works, or they might not talk about official work. They might talk about personal issues too. And here in the last point, you can see it's the same thing. Attitudes towards work, heated debate among managers, personal ego. So personal ego is you get so angry with the other person. You have an ego because the other person did something or said something. But in a formal communication, again, you have to go hierarchy wise, you have to communicate. But if you had to communicate personally, you wouldn't, right? And then there are other things, too jovial or too cordial hamper the workplace productivity. Sometimes personal communication, like you just take certain things very personally, and it might hamper your official works too, right? So now, here, now tell me, tea time chat in the office. Can this be considered as personal communication while you're having tea in the office?
Yeah.
And yes, it can be. Meeting ma ko bela ma ki ko bela भन्ने भर
This thing? Okay, tea time, you are having a break.
then it can be casual.
Okay. Or what about like you are having tea in a meeting and you are communicating. So what would that be?
Totally formal.
Formal, and then it would become internal operation, right? Okay. So now let's move on to this slide now. Going on to external operational communication again. This is an example. Okay. On the left top, you can see there is your company, dark blue, right? So how does your company communicate to external operationals, to external people? External people there are on the right side, the right light blue box. They are government, suppliers, customers, general public, they are contractors and consultants, and it goes on. There are so many more, right? So how do you communicate to them is on the left bottom again. The box green in color. So you communicate through these things, emails and letters, TV ads, there are phone calls, trade shows, press meetings or press release, there are webinars and seminars, and there might be so much more, isn't it? So which one do you think is the most appropriate of all these to communicate externally? Which one would you use if you had to?
Ma'am, के को लागि?
No, you as a company communicating like externally.
Was the agenda मा भर पर्यो म्याम त्यो त.
Okay.
Social
Yes.
media for now.
Okay. Just like Archana
Oh,
mentioned,
depends
social
upon the
media.
business actually, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, of course. And Praveen and Shekhar, both of you mentioned depends. Not only depends on the business, but depends on the agenda and what are you trying to communicate. Just like Praveen also mentioned,
Yes, exactly.
we should consider all those things. So that's what I wanted to know. You can't just focus
And
on
especially
one
what
thing.
and to whom, especially.
Yes. Yes, of course.
There are
What you're
several kinds of
communicating,
customers, I know.
what time, to whom. Yes, very good. Okay. So I am so sure that you have understood this so well. All right. Thank you, Shekhar and Pravin. So now this is I learn, right? So is this external operational or internal operational communication? We use this every day.
Internal.
Internal, why?
Ma'am, it's internal and external both. As a login as a guest, it means to say is for external user too. For the internal user, they need to sign up. It's
Here
two-way
we
of
can give an
communication.
opinion to both of the section, as Praveen mentioned, right? Because strongly it's an internal, I believe, right, ma'am, but it can also be considered as an external too.
Yes, you all are correct. See, so if we had to log in into iLearn, we need our username and passwords. And then if you want to log in as a guest, now anybody from any place in the world can come and log in as a guest, and that would be external, right? But we all who have our usernames and passwords, that might be internal, right? And now look at this. Now, is this external or internal?
Ma'am, external.
External.
External,
Ma'am, moreover
right? Why?
external, but it's for internal too.
Yes, yeah, of
Resources.
course, like all the internal people can use, but all the external people can also use. Anybody can come and just view this website, right? They can have information, they can explore inside here, isn't it? So this becomes external, right? So I think like you all are clear regarding internal, external, and personal, aren't
Any
you?
form of external is going to be internal as well as त्यही होइन र external
Yes,
भएपछि
of
internal त
course.
जसरी सर्कुलेसन भइहाल्छ नि a
Yes, of course.
subset of
Not
external
all
is
the time. Mhm. Yes, of course, that is, but not all the time. Just like, let's say, the CEO has a business meeting with another company, another CEO. But at that time, it's not really internal. It doesn't become internal. The CEO does not give this information to all the staff in the very beginning, right? So
noted.
the time also matters. Okay. So let's move on now. We are here. Relation of communicators now. What kind of relations do different kinds of people or different individuals have with each other, right? So they're based on organizational relation, professional relation, and personal relation. So organizational relation, it's again based in internal operation. It's based on the organization, based on the company, based on the business house, those people who are inside, and you are communicating with each other. Again, we can relate this to business communication based on direction, upward, downwards, and horizontals and diagonals. Organizational is which happens inside. The communicators, they are colleagues, they are boss and employee, they're employee and boss, employee and manager. So these things are there in organizational relations, and they have relations based on the organizational structure, right? Now, for professional relations of communicators, professional relation is not only based on an organization. It might be like from various organizations. Just like there are so many professionals. For example, there might be doctors, there might be lawyers, right? There are so many experts, I mean. Or if one patient, okay, one sick person goes to the doctor and is taking expert advice from the doctor, that is also professional relation. The doctor has a professional relation with the sick person, with the patient. Or if a person goes to a lawyer to take advice, that lawyer and that client also has professional relations. See, so it's basically based on work. Now, I am a teacher and you are a student. So we also have a professional relation of teacher and student. So professional relation is based on experts, all right? And the third one, personal relations now. Now, personal relations can be anything and anybody. It might be based on genes, with their parents, with their siblings. It might be your family. It might be like where you are brought up, maybe your schools, your college, your hostel, or it can also be based on your culture. If like two people from the same culture meet and then they start talking because they have so much which are similar between them, that's also personal relation. See? So personal relation can be anything, and you can just connect yourself personally to anybody. All right. So these are the major three types of relations of communicators. Are you also clear on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's clear, right? Now, this was regarding the types and networks of business communication. Now let's go on to a short discussion here. List types of internal operation and external operation communications that occur in any business you are familiar with. Okay, so let's do a group discussion. I shall divide you into different groups. Okay, so you just come up, you just think of any business you are familiar with. You know that business, or you know the person who is running the business. So what are the internal operational communications they conduct in their organization or business? Or what are the external operational communication they conduct in the business? And there in the second point you can see, discuss what formal networks do they use? What are the formal networks do they use? What type of hierarchy? Maybe they go from the CEO gives information to the manager and the manager gives information to the staff, or it might be something else too. And why do they use formal networks? Why don't they use informal networks? Think about that once. All right. So are you clear on this question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me just divide you randomly into groups. Okay, and then let's discuss this. Okay, I'm randomly assigning you. Okay, how many of you are here? 20 of you are here.
Ma'am,
Yes, Arishma. Which group were
Malay
you?
group 2.
Group 2? Okay. Nishan, are you there? Nishan?
Nilisha ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
I think the lights went or the
No,
connection. Okay.
no, like they're in the breakout rooms.
Okay, okay. Okay. I thought like you left the room, that's why.
Oh, no, no, no. I was
Oh,
going into different groups.
okay. Sorry to
All right,
disturb.
that's okay.
Others. मेनुमा भयो
Usually फेमस किन छ त हैन एउटा आर्टिकल पढेको थिएँ कि हुन त सस्तो डिल पनि छ है के अरे अब स्मार्ट डोको है के पनि रहेछ है के
Okay,
अरे
we
तर
are back to the main room.
10 seconds म्याम 10 seconds
All right, go on, please.
कन्टेन्ट वेबसाइट एन्ड ब्लगिङ म चाहिँ अब जस्तै वेबसाइट इजी टु युज छ कि कस्टमर फोकस छ होइन कस्टमरले हेरेर नै थाहा पाउन सक्छ कि यो के अरे यसरी युज गर्ने हो भन्नाले इजी टु एक्सेस छ है अनि अर्को कुरा चाहिँ के अरे एक्सेसिभ सर्च इन्जिन अप्टिमाइजेसनमा खर्च गरिरहेछ है जसको कारणले गुगलले सपोर्ट गर्छ होइन अनि जस्तै अब अहिले अनलाइन सपिङ भन्ने त्यो दराज सुरुमा आउँछ
के रे
बुझेन
Okay.
के थियो
Can we stop there? Can we stop there because we are running out of time, right? You still need to
Sure, ma'am.
give
Sure.
details to the class. So let's start with group 3. Any one of you can just share your ideas, share your group ideas to the entire class.
म्याम हामीले सिलेक्ट गरेर चाहिँ ब्याङ्किङ सेक्टरमा सिलेक्ट गरेर छ के अरे दे मोर ओभर युज स्ल्याक के अरे स्ल्याक भन्ने एउटा ओपन प्लेटफर्म विच इज मोस्ट ओभर युज फर सफ्टवेयर डेभलपमेन्ट एन्ड अदर प्लेटफर्ममा युज भइरहेको इन्टरनल प्लस एक्सटर्नल के इन्टरनल स्पेसली इन्टरनलको लागि चाहिँ युज गरेर हुन्छ उनीहरूले चाहिँ फर बोर्ड अफ चेन कमान्डदेखि नै माथिदेखि हायरकी बेसिसमै त्यो छुट्याएको छ क्या त्यो चाहिँ त्यो कारणले एज अ इन्डिभिजुअल अथवा कोही सेकेन्डरी पार्ट कोही आएर कम्युनिकेसन गर्नु पऱ्यो भने त्यहाँ स्ल्याकमा सिधै दे जो लाइक डिस्कोड र हाम्रो जुन चाहिँ गेमिङ प्लेटफर्महरूमा हुन्छ नि त्यसकै उसमा आर्किटेक्चरमा बनाएको कम्युनिकेसन प्लेटफर्म बनाएको इन्टरनल चाहिँ त्यसरी गरिरहेको छ ब्याङ्कहरूले प्लस दे डु हेभ देयर ओन इन्टर कम्युनिकेसन सिस्टम अल्सो अनि अहिले चाहिँ मोरओभर जस्तै हाम्रो यो टेलिकम इन्टरनल कम्युनिकेसन गर्नलाई कस्टहरू रिडक्सन गर्ने कुराहरूमा चाहिँ भोइप युज गरेर चाहिँ टोटल्ली दे आर युजिङ अ भोइप टेक्नोलोजी इन्टरनल एन्ड एक्सटर्नलमा पनि त्यही भइरहेछ भनौँ न मोरओभर दे आर मोरओभर फर एक्सटर्नल कम्युनिकेसन ब्याङ्किङ सेक्टर राइट नाउ डिजिटल्ली जुन चाहिँ कोभिडको सिचुएसनले गर्दा चाहिँ दे आर के अरे मोरओभर सोसल मिडिया ब्याङ्किङ भनेर अहिले नयाँ प्लेटफर्म आएको छ दे आर युजिङ द्याट सोसल मिडिया ब्याङ्किङमा दे आर युजिङ भाइबर वाट्सएप फेसबुक मेसेन्जर प्लेटफर्म अब के अरे इन्स्टा रिली भन्ने आएको इन्स्टाग्रामकै एउटा फिचर्सको एडनमा आएको छ तर नेपालमा अलिक पपुलर चाहिँ भएको छैन मोर ओभर भाइबर इज मोर फर एक्सटर्नल कम्युनिकेसन इन ब्याङ्किङ सेक्टर द्याट्स ऑल
Okay, great.
And
Wonderful.
for formal use they do have a के अरे इमेलै अहिले मोस्ट स्पेसली रेकगनाइज भएको छ फ्रम अफिसियल मेल जस्तै अब मेलमा पनि फर एक्सटर्नल कम्युनिकेसन एज अ कस्टमर बेसिसमा चाहिँ अब म जिमेल युज गर्छु हटमेल युज गर्छु जुन चाहिँ पछाडिको जो प्रोफेसनल मेल जुन कस्टमर केयरमा त्यो छ फ्रम ब्याङ्क साइड चाहिँ प्रोफेसनलमा इफ इट्स नोबेल ब्याङ्क abc@nobelbank.com.np अथवा के छ NIC एसिया .nacAsia.com.np त्यसरी आएकोलाई चाहिँ फर्मल्ली रेकगनाइज गरेर हामीले नै यो ब्याङ्कबाटै आएको हो अथवा यो यही हाउसबाट आएको बिजनेस हाउसबाट आएको भनेर छुट्याइरहेको हामीले चाहिँ द्याट्स ऑल
Okay, wonderful. Wonderfully done, group 3. Thank you. All right. So group 4, would you like to share your ideas?
Sure, ma'am. The organization we chose is ACE International Business School itself, because we were all familiar with it. Internal communication can be notice, reports, face-to-face communication, email, presentation, and external communication can be letters, fax, advertisement, video, website, pamphlets, booklets, etc. Uh, as we when we talk about formal network, we use horizontal network as well as vertical network as well as circular network. So there are various kind of networks used um, in various kind of scenario. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Group 4. Let's go to group 2.
Yes, ma'am. So we chose an automobile industry, and to be specific, we went with Yamaha, and like and for the for the internal communications, we like they have brought up policies like in order to sustain the environment, and that one of those policies is like joint management council, in which like the company's company-wide management issues is discussed twice a year, and like there is a company-wide production and sales community, and yeah, like these type the problems and everything is discussed in that as well. Yeah, like the internal management discusses like creative ideas and all, and for external we can see like in the distribution channel, they do direct marketing channels, distributors, business partners, which enables sales and delivery of the goods. Yeah, like we can see in context of Nepal as well, like many brochures and offers are given in order to boost their sales to the customers. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, wonderful. Work done in there, right? I can see how much all of you have discussed. Okay, let's go to group 1. Group 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can you share your ideas?
Before that, can you repeat the question, ma'am, once? Because I was not present at that point of time.
Oh, okay. Like, I think it's on your screen already. List
Okay,
types of
sorry.
internal
It's like
operation and
sub-internal.
external operation communication in any business you're familiar with.
So for this question, for answer of this question, we have chosen okay, you online shopping industry especially. Uh, so as earlier group have already mentioned about internal and external communication, right? So on talking about the internal communication thing over which is being used by online shopping industry, or are so the mainly subtopics are knowledge, right? Media event through events, through story, their culture is a part of internal communication, right? In terms of knowledge, let me give an example, right? For example, Daraj. Let me take an example of Daraj, right? So in the process of just the higher management sets that which might be of sales, which might be of any other expenses, right? Uh, त्यसपछि चाहिँ त्यो टार्गेट सेट गरिसकेपछि चाहिँ के हुन्छ भनेपछि अब त्यो टार्गेट सेट गर्नलाई मेबी दे रिक्वायर न्यू स्किल्स, जसले गर्दा न्यू इम्प्लोयरहरू हायर गर्नु पर्यो भने है, अब न्यू इम्प्लोयर हायर गर्नको लागि चाहिँ के भन्छ म्यानेजमेन्टको वर्किङ स्टाइलहरू पर्यो, म्यानेजमेन्टको यसरी काम गर्छ भन्ने त्यो कुरा चाहिँ यदि रिक्रुट गर्नु पर्दैन भने के अरे त्यो त्यो सेट अफ टार्गेट्सको अचिभ गर्नको लागि गर्नुपर्ने के अरे स्ट्राटेजिजहरू के छ त त्यो अनि त्यो ट्याक्टिक्सहरू के बनाउने त त्यो कुराहरू बिट्विन द म्यानेजमेन्ट चाहिँ सेयर गर्नु पर्यो अनि त्यो सेयरिङ प्रोसेसलाई चाहिँ एउटा नलेजेबल सेसन नै भन्न इट्स अ पार्ट अफ इन्टरनल कम्युनिकेसन होइन म्याम अनि टकिङ अबाउट द मिडिया थिङ जस्तै एउटा गोल सेट गर्यो दराजले है द गोल इज टु increase their sales in पोखरा since के अरे they have found since suppose कि के अरे काठमाडौँमा जस्तो सेल्स भइरहेको छ पोखरामा त्यस्तो सेल्स भइरहेको छैन so the higher the CEO is wanting their sales to increase in पोखरा no matter what अनि त्यो भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अब उसले चाहिँ यो फरवर्ड गर्छ आफ्नो हरेक डिपार्टमेन्टलाई जस्तै फर इक्जाम्पल मार्केटिङ डिपार्टमेन्ट एचआर फाइनान्स अनि अब मार्केटिङ फर इक्जाम्पल मार्केटिङ डिपार्टमेन्टले अब सिन्स फर इक्जाम्पल वी ग्रुप 1 आर द मार्केटिङ डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ दराज सो हामीले चाहिँ अब पोखरामा कसरी फरवर्ड गर्ने त्यो कुरा कसरी हाम्रो सेल्स इन्क्रिज गर्ने कस्टमरलाई अट्र्याक्ट गर्ने न्यू कस्टमर्सहरू बनाउने कि अलरेडी एक्जिस्टिङ कस्टमरलाई चाहिँ के भन्छ रिटेन गर्ने सो त्यसको लागि चाहिँ हामीले के गर्छौँ भनेपछि यो कुराहरू डिटेलहरू सेयर गर्नको लागि थ्रु मिडिया प्रोसेस द्याट माइट बी थ्रु त्यसरी कम्युनिकेट गर्छौँ है अनि थ्रु इभेन्ट्स टु अब अनलाइन सपिङ इन्डस्ट्रिज दे कम्युनिकेट थ्रु इभेन्ट्स इन्टरनल्ली टु है for the internally which includes के भन्छ story sessions inside their organizations है अनि talking about external communication is about marketing through content of website and blogging so many companies these days are strongly advertising and spending so much of their money through search engine optimization, content marketing, vlogging, which is a part of external communication, right, ma'am? Also we see so many this online shopping industry is sponsoring so many concerts, sponsoring so many musicians, so to के भन्छ to deliver their existence to the audience, to the targeted audience. Also emails and newsletters, right? So basically social media marketing is also there. So this is what we have to tell.
Okay, thank you, Shekhar. So all the 4 groups, I am really so glad that all of you discussed well. And then to some extent, you all have understood regarding whatever we discussed in today's class, regarding the different types and networks of business communication and the individuals to whom we communicate, internal, external, and personal, right? So from your discussion too, the ideas you've shared, those were like good. And then I really believe that you can improve more, right? So this was regarding today's class. We have almost come to the end. Now let me just recheck the attendance. Prakriti, she's not there. Ronim, not there. Sacham, also not there. Okay, the rest of you are marked present. So I think today is Wednesday. I'll see you all next week then, and we shall continue with our course, right? So wonderful job, everyone, for your discussion. So thank you, class. I'll see you all next week. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
यतापट्टि हो अब
के भनेको